Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today's video is going to be about my favorite plants to grow in the garden. I've surrounded myself with a few house plants just to set the theme, but this video is about plants that I'm growing outside in my garden. I was invited to do this video in collaboration with Robin from Happy at Home. She has a beautiful garden and she's got lovely shrubs and plants that she's established, and she came up with this idea of doing a video talking about 5 plants that we each like to grow in our gardens. She's in the US, I'm in New Zealand. We have opposite seasons at the moment. We obviously have different climates and some different plants available to us, so do be sure to check out her video, which I will link down below. If you are new here coming from Robin's channel, welcome. My name is Jen, and on my channel you'll find vlogs and a range of lifestyle topics. I have quite a large garden. I have half an acre, and we've only been in this house for 3 years, so I'm very much still putting in my garden, and I've only really begun gardening when we moved to this house, like properly, so I'm still learning as I go. But I do have some favorite plants that I just adore and that I put lots of them into my garden, and I just really enjoy them. So the first plant I'm going to talk about is hydrangeas. I absolutely love hydrangeas. You can get so many different varieties of them, different colors. I love how showy and lush they are, that they're big full bushes with large leaves and masses of flowers. I mean, hydrangea flowers can be like as big as your head. You can get all different kinds. Like I said, you can get the mop head ones, which look like this, and most of the hydrangeas in my garden are mop heads. You can also get lace caps. I only have one lace cap in my garden, but it looks like this. It has larger flowers or florets that open, and then it has lots of tiny little flowers in between it, and they're just so interesting. Another reason I love hydrangeas is because they're a sign of summer. In New Zealand, they're sometimes called Christmas flowers or Christmas roses because we have Christmas in the beginning of summer, and that's round about when hydrangeas start blooming. So for me, they're very much synonymous with summer, and that's just another reason why I enjoy them. You can get so many different colors of hydrangeas, but they're generally in the white, pink, blue, purple sort of family. Not all hydrangeas change color according to your soil, but most do. So if you have a more acidic soil, you're going to end up with blue or purple hydrangeas, and if you have a more alkaline soil, you're going to have more pink or burgundy hydrangeas. I have a hydrangea plant that I put in. I wish I'd kept the name of it because I don't know what it's called, but it has dark stems or stalks, and the flowers start out a bright lime green tipped with purple, and then when they're fully in bloom they go to a deep purple. That was actually a deep burgundy when I planted it, but it's gone more purple as the years have gone on because my soil is acidic. I've also planted pink hydrangeas, and they have turned into blue hydrangeas with time. You can change the acidity of your soil by adding things to the soil if you want to control the color of your hydrangeas, but obviously those things are going to be dissipated through the soil and diluted with the rain, and you're just going to have to keep adding them, and I just prefer not to fight nature. I put my hydrangeas in and I accept whatever color they're going to turn into. It's actually quite tricky for me to show you any of my plants because we're coming up to the end of winter at the moment. And that's the one thing I don't like about hydrangeas, is that there's no winter interest. You can leave the blooms on the plant as you go into autumn and winter, and they can dry on the plant and they can look quite attractive. Some just go brown, but I have 3 Bridal Bouquet hydrangeas that I will show you in a minute. But once the blooms are spent and they dry on the bush, they actually go all different colors. They go burgundy and green and purple, and as you can see, I have harvested some of them and I decorate with them in my home. So they look like this. Can you believe these were white on the bush? So here's some footage showing you how my hydrangeas are looking at the moment. They're looking a bit bare. They just look like sticks coming out of the ground, but if you look closely you can see some new buds forming. Something that I do enjoy about these plants is that they are quite easy to maintain. So once all of the leaves have fallen off, you can go out and just give them a simple prune, and it doesn't take much. Cut off the dead heads. If the end of the stick looks like this, then just leave that. Don't prune that off because that's going to be the new bloom. Those are going to be the first flowers that open in the new season. Otherwise, you just prune the stick to above 2 buds like this, and that will create a bushy plant and just make it look more attractive without dead sticks sticking out everywhere. Once spring hits, all of the new leaves start unfurling, and before you know it, there are beautiful big mop head blooms everywhere. This is how the same plant looks at the height of summer. They're big, they're bushy, they're showy, they're fluffy, absolutely beautiful, and I just love them. I think I have 12 or 13 hydrangea plants in my garden at the moment, and every summer I sneak some more in. I just can't resist them. Okay, the next plant I want to talk about is Pyrrhus. Pyrrhus is one of my favorite plants. I've loved them for absolutely years. When Daniel was a toddler, and he's 16 now, we were given a Pyrrhus plant in a big pot, and we had that in our tiny little backyard in England. When I say tiny backyard, terraced houses in England don't have gardens. It was just like a little concrete patch about the size of a single garage. And this was the first plant that I'd really tended in any of my homes, and I absolutely loved it. Pyrrhus looks good all year round, at least in my gardening zone, which I should have mentioned is zone 9. They just look gorgeous all of the time. They have evergreen glossy leaves. The new growth is bright lime green. Sometimes it goes red. There are burgundy fronds that appear in winter, and then in late winter or early spring they burst into bloom, and they look like lily of the valley. They're pinkish whitish little bell-shaped flowers. They're just so pretty. I actually only have one in the garden and 2 that I've just put into pots next to our French doors, and it's, like I said, the end of winter. We've got about 2 or 3 weeks of winter left, and this is how the one in my garden is looking. It's just so pretty with all of the flowers opening, and then the 2 in the pots next to our French doors are looking like this. So all of those burgundy fronds should open up into those little bell flowers, I guess, once the plants have settled in nicely, because we've only just moved them into these pots. So I'm going to give them a bit of time to settle down, and hopefully they will flower for me. Pyrrhus is very low maintenance. You don't have to prune them or really do anything to them, and they just look after themselves. You don't have to clean the spent flowers off of them. I think they're just wonderful, and I definitely plan to put more of them into my garden. I have found them quite hard to find. There's a nursery that I use fairly locally to me. They are very inexpensive. I get all of my hydrangea bushes there for like $5 a bush, hedging shrubs, but they don't always have Pyrrhus. I think I've only seen Pyrrhus there once, and it was when I was shopping for other things, so I didn't buy it. So they are a little bit hard to find. I got the ones in the pots for next to our French doors from Bunnings, and they were, I think, $26 each, so they were not cheap. So that's one of the reasons I don't have more of them in my garden, although I definitely plan to add more. Another bush that I only have a couple of in my garden but will definitely be putting more in is escallonia, or sometimes called the apple blossom bush. This is another plant that just looks good all year round. It's nice and fluffy and bushy, and it has evergreen leaves, and it just looks neat and tidy. And then in late winter it starts to open up into blossoms, and they look like apple blossoms. They're pink and they're just adorable, and it just looks so pretty against the dark green foliage. Do you think that they bloom a second time during the year? I think towards the end of summer. I can't remember. All I know is that they look good all year round, and you don't have to fuss with them. They're low maintenance, so I'm definitely putting more of those in. They also don't get too big. None of these shrubs get too big. I'm all about nice big full plants, especially with half an acre to fill, but I don't want to be managing plants. I don't want to have to be pruning things and cutting things back too much. So my hydrangeas get to about 1.5 meters tall. The Pyrrhus can get to about the same size, and so does the escallonia. When I put this escallonia in 3 years ago, it was just a tiny stick. I'll see if I have a photo of it, but it was very small. It was just a little propagated plant this big. It was actually given to me by a local nursery woman who I'd been buying plants from, and she kind of threw it in for free, and it's just become so beautiful. This is how it's looking now. It is, like I said, the end of winter, and it's beginning to bloom, and it's just so lovely to have a full lush plant in the garden in winter, let alone flowers as well, because most things are kind of dead and the garden's looking a bit bare. Speaking of winter interest, I have discovered a new love for cyclamen. Some people call them cyclamen. They have lovely variegated leaves and bright, bright flowers that appear in winter, just when you need it most. You can look out the window and see bright spots of pink, white, purple, or even red in the garden, but it's a lovely red. I'm not into kind of hot colors like tomato reds, but the red of the cyclamen is more like a a plummy burgundy red. I just think they are so beautiful. They are flowers that are actually upside down, so the flower comes out and it tips down and the petals go upwards, which is a little bit unusual, and I just think they look so pretty. Last year I walked into the warehouse and they were selling all of their cyclamen for 75 cents each, and I went and grabbed a trolley and I pretty much bought all of the stock that they had and just popped it into the garden here, there and everywhere. So like I said, it's the end of winter now, and this is all of the color that I have in my garden is mainly from my cyclamen. They're so pretty, and while they don't bloom in summer, they do have evergreen leaves, so they don't disappear, and the leaves are variegated. I think they're quite interesting to look at. And another thing I like about cyclamen is they grow in shade. Shade gardening has actually turned out to be my favorite kind of gardening. When I first began gardening, I found shade to be a bit of a challenge, like what do you grow there? What can I grow that will flower? And I've learned more about it. Maybe that's why it's my favorite, because I put more effort into it. And now I really enjoy shade plants and shade gardening, and cyclamen love the shade. They bloom in the shade and they're just perfect to tuck in under trees or next to bushes or any little spot that you have. They are small, low plants. They can be in the front of a border or, like I said, skirting a tree or something. I just think they're so pretty and so delicate, and yet they're tough little plants. They survive all year and they bloom in the cold. And then the last plant I'm going to talk about today is a vegetable. I couldn't leave out vegetables because I do have quite a big vegetable patch. I have 13 very large raised beds and I grow a lot of our food. So the plant I'm going to talk about is zucchini. I know, it's kind of a love-hate thing, but zucchini are just so rewarding. You can put in 4 seeds and be eating tons of zucchini all summer long. It just keeps on going into the autumn until mine finally expire from powdery mildew. The trick with zucchini is to pick them when they're small. They're more tender. You don't have as much zucchini to eat, so that you're not going to get sick of it, and they don't get kind of big and watery and tasteless. So that's when you need to pick them, anything from finger size to, I guess, that big. But once they start getting big, it becomes a marrow really, and they're just watery and tasteless. So if you don't like zucchini, maybe that's why. Maybe try younger zucchini. I like to grow Gold Rush zucchini, which is bright yellow, and it makes it so much easier to spot them. If you're growing green zucchini, obviously the plant is green and there's green, like quite thick leaf stalks coming off or branches coming off, and you're looking for these zucchini and you can't see them, and then a day later you go and there's like one this size lurking in there that you missed. So that's a tip for you. If you want to grow zucchini and you don't want to miss any and end up with marrows, then grow a gold variety or a lighter color variety that's not green, that you're going to be able to spot easily when you're looking in your zucchini plant. To eat zucchini, I just slice it into discs and pan fry it in a little bit of olive oil. You can also do them on the barbecue if you want to, and of course you can do things like making zucchini bread or grating it into meals if you want to sneak vegetables in for your kids to eat. I hated zucchini growing up, or courgette as we called it, because my mom used to steam it and I just felt like it went slimy and it was tasteless and gross. But if you try baking, roasting, pan frying, any kind of dry heat, they respond really well to that, and it's quite delicious. I think the trick with zucchini is to not plant too many plants. We're a family of 4. We eat a lot of fresh vegetables and a lot of zucchini, and I think I had 3 or 4 plants on the go last summer, and that was plenty for us. We were able to give some away as well, but it wasn't too much. So if you are sick of zucchini and you're like, I'm never growing that again, maybe just try growing less of it. I could go on all day about plants in my garden, especially because I'm learning so much and there's always new plants that I'm adding into the garden. I have new shrubs that I've put in. I've got new plants that I discovered last season, but I haven't been growing them long enough to really claim them as a favorite yet. Maybe Robin and I will do another video like this in a few years' time. Do be sure to go and check out Robin's video, which I will link down below. And if you are new here to my channel, I would love to have you as a subscriber. I will link all of my garden tours over here. I have a playlist. I do a garden tour at the end of each season, so you can see the space that I'm working in. And I'll be uploading my winter garden tour for this year soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.